Imagine you're living in a world where your thoughts don't come from your brain. Your skull isn't a factory, it's an antenna. Everything you call you is being received, not generated. Scientists are finally taking this seriously. What if your brain is only the receiver? For 400 years we've been told the same story. Neurons fire, chemistry happens. From that wet gray tissue, the entire universe of your inner life is manufactured. Your love for someone, the taste of coffee, the color red, all cooked up inside 3 pounds of meat. But here's the thing, nobody has ever shown how. Not once, not in any single lab experiment. We can map which neurons fire when you think of your mother. We watch oxygen flow when afraid. But the leap from electricity to experience, from raw signal to actual feeling, remains a total blank. Philosophers call it the hard problem of consciousness. It has broken every scientist who ever tried to solve it. Ask yourself something honestly. Where are you, right now? Not your body, you, that silent watcher reading these words. You feel located somewhere behind your eyes, don't you? A little pilot inside a skull. Nobody can find it. And that little pilot has stakes. If consciousness is only brain activity, when the brain dies, you fully die. Nothing left. Your grandmother is gone. Your future self is temporary. Reality itself is chemistry pretending to matter. Most people never sit with that thought. It's too heavy. So we shrug and scroll. But scientists kept looking. What they found in the last 30 years has quietly unraveled the whole story we tell ourselves. Because one anomaly refuses to fit this model. 1991, Atlanta, Georgia. A woman is wheeled in, Pam Reynolds, a massive aneurysm at the base of her brain. Surgeons must do something almost unthinkable. They cool her body to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. They drain the blood from her head entirely away. They stop her heart. They flatline her brain on the monitor. For 1 hour, Pam Reynolds is dead. And yet, when she woke up, she described the entire operation in astonishing detail from memory. The shape of the bone saw, the conversations of the surgeons, a song playing quietly in the room. She said she watched the whole thing floating above her own body, all later verified by doctors. Turns out, Pam Reynolds is not alone. Dr. Sam Parnia ran a landmark study called simply Aware. Over 4 years, across 15 hospitals, he tracked patients who had cardiac arrest and were later resuscitated. Their brains had gone silent. No blood flow, no electrical activity at all. Clinically, they were gone. And yet roughly 1 in 10 reported clear, structured awareness during that gap between life and death. Some described events in the room they could not possibly have seen with their own physical eyes. One man accurately reported a whole conversation that happened 3 minutes after his heart had fully stopped. 3 minutes, when his brain had zero measurable electrical activity. Not a flicker, not a single spark. If the brain was silent, who was watching? Skeptics push back, saying memories form later, in recovery's fog. They claim the brain has hidden bursts we can't detect. Maybe. But the same pattern keeps repeating everywhere. Across cultures, ages, continents, kids who never heard of an afterlife describe the same tunnel, warmth, reunion. Something is happening that our simple model does not explain. And this is where the science gets truly uncomfortable. Neuroscientists have a dirty little secret. They can find neural correlates of consciousness all day long, easily. Which brain regions light up when? What chemistry accompanies what feeling? But correlation is not cause, remember? Turn on a radio, hear music, its circuits correlate with the song. That doesn't mean the radio wrote it. Philosopher David Chalmers spelled this out in 1995. He called it the hard problem of consciousness. The easy problems, he said, are the wiring, how brains process light, sort memory. We'll crack that eventually. The hard problem is different. Why is any of it accompanied by an inner experience at all? Ever? Why isn't the whole thing happening in the dark, like a computer with no user watching inside? No theory has answered this. Not one. Some scientists tried to build models anyway, elegant frameworks emerging. Integrated information theory says consciousness happens when a system integrates enough information in exactly the right pattern. Global workspace theory calls it a kind of broadcast, where one signal wins the brain's attention lottery. These models are elegant. They describe beautifully. They do not explain what makes experience actually feel like something. Matter, on its own, has no reason to feel anything. Yet somehow, you're reading this, and you feel. Arrange atoms into a rock, into a thermostat, into a human. Somewhere along that line, subjective experience just appears. But where? And why? Nobody knows. Every attempt to derive feeling from cold physics equations has completely failed. So a small group of physicists asked a heretical question. What if we're looking in the wrong place entirely? Then physicists entered the conversation. Roger Penrose is not a mystic. He's a Nobel laureate mathematical physicist. He helped Stephen Hawking crack open the mysteries of black holes. Serious scientist, serious credentials. No woo. In the 1990s, Penrose teamed up with an anesthesiologist named Stuart Hameroff. Together, they proposed something wild. They called it orchestrated objective reduction, ORC-OR for short. Their central claim, boiled way down, goes like this. Deep inside every neuron are tiny structures called microtubules, ribbons of protein shaped exactly like microscopic scaffolding. Penrose and Hameroff argued these microtubules are not just structural. They act as quantum antennae inside your brain, little instruments picking up something that ordinary chemistry cannot capture. So what exactly are they picking up? A field, a layer of reality where consciousness itself lives, woven into the fabric of the universe. Woven in like gravity, like electromagnetism, one of the fundamental things reality itself is built out of. The idea sounds absurd, until you remember quantum physics has been telling us weird things for a century. The observer effect, particles behaving differently the very moment someone watches them. Entanglement stretching across any distance. Physicists have argued for decades that consciousness and measurement are somehow linked at the deepest level of reality. Under this view, your brain is not a broadcaster, it is a tuner. Picture that carefully for a moment. Think of the television. Smash the television, the show doesn't disappear. It stops playing on that screen. The signal is still out there. Fix another set, tune it in, and the program simply returns. Now imagine your brain is that set, and you are the signal. If true, memory itself may live elsewhere. Which brings us somewhere more disturbing. There are medical cases that make no sense under the old model. None. Take terminal lucidity. Elderly patients with severe dementia, brains ravaged on scans, whole cortical regions gone entirely. They haven't recognized their own children in years. Then, hours before death, they suddenly wake up. Fully. They speak full sentences, call family by name, say goodbye, know exactly who they are. Then they die. How does a broken brain suddenly produce clear consciousness? It shouldn't. Under the old model, it simply can't. Under the antenna model, the signal was always there. The receiver briefly reopened before shutting down forever. Now take hydrocephalus. Documented adults living normal lives, working jobs, raising kids, scoring average on IQ tests. But their skulls are mostly fluid, with almost no brain tissue left. Neurologist John Lorber cataloged dozens. One patient scored 126 on IQ, took honors in mathematics. His brain a paper-thin layer against skull. If consciousness is generated by brain volume, this is flatly impossible. If consciousness is received, volume is just wiring. Less wiring, still a signal. The antenna keeps tuning in, no matter how thin the receiver becomes. Then there are the psychedelic studies. On psilocybin or DMT, people report the most vivid experiences of their lives. Expanded awareness, a profound sense of connection, encounters with things that feel more real than reality itself. You'd expect the brain to be firing harder than ever. But researchers scanned those brains and found the opposite. Overall activity went down. Certain networks dimmed. Less brain, more experience. The pattern repeats itself again. Savants show us another crack in the story. Children who suddenly play piano concertos they never once learned. Kids who speak languages nobody taught them. Some gained these abilities only after brain injury struck them. As if damage to the filter let more of the signal through. And then there are deathbed visions. A dying grandmother says her late husband has come to take her. The nurse in the room sees something. The child at the bedside describes the same figure. Independent, corroborated reports, a pattern too stubborn to dismiss. Every anomaly points the same direction. A growing number of thinkers ask us to flip the whole picture. Not tweak it, flip it. The old story says matter is fundamental, and mind is an accident of matter. The new story says mind is fundamental, and matter is merely an appearance inside mind itself. The clearest voice today is a Dutch philosopher named Bernardo Kastrup, trained originally as a computer engineer. He worked at CERN, and he is nobody's crystal-waving guru. Kastrup calls his framework analytic idealism. The universe, he argues, is one vast field of consciousness. Not many minds, but one single mind. Each of us is a localized whirlpool inside it, a dissociation, a pocket within the ocean. A pocket where the one mind briefly forgets it is the ocean and thinks it is a wave. Your brain, in this view, is what a dissociated pocket looks like from the outside. An image only. A hurricane looks like swirling clouds from a satellite, but is really wind you simply cannot see. The brain is the image of the process, not the cause of it. Matter emerges from experience. Physics still works. Chemistry still works. Nothing you learned in school gets deleted. It simply gets reframed. The equations describe the surface. Consciousness is the depth. And here is the strange convergence happening now. This is roughly what mystics have said for thousands of years, across continents, across centuries. Same message. Hindu sages spoke of Brahman, one single awareness dreaming all forms across every fleeting waking moment of time. Buddhist teachers pointed to a groundless ground beneath thought. Christian contemplatives wrote of God in whom we live. Different vocabularies, same rough shape. Now, physicists and philosophers arrive at similar conclusions through math and data. Contrary to popular belief, science and mysticism may not be enemies at all. They describe one elephant. They may be describing the same elephant from opposite ends. So what does this mean for you tonight? Start with the smallest thing. Death. If your consciousness is not produced by your brain, but received, then the death of the receiver is not the end of the signal itself. Something quietly continues. What you are, that quiet watcher, may simply return to the vast field it originally came from. Not as a ghost, not as a personality clinging on, but as pure awareness itself, completely unfiltered. That doesn't guarantee heaven. It doesn't promise your memories survive. But it changes the arithmetic completely tonight. Because you were never the wave. You were always the ocean, pretending briefly to be a wave. Now consider empathy. If we all share one underlying field, the person across from you is not separate. They are the same awareness looking out through different eyes. Cruelty suddenly becomes very strange under this lens. So does loneliness. That ache of being cut off from others. Maybe it's the wave forgetting the water. Meditation starts to make more sense too. For thousands of years, contemplatives said, "Sit still, stop chasing thoughts." Under the antenna model, meditation is exactly what it sounds like. Tuning the receiver, turning down local noise. Grief looks different. Purpose looks different. Even your own identity begins to feel a little lighter. You are not a fragile bag of chemistry defending itself against extinction. You are a temporary shape. A shape the universe is trying on. That doesn't make your life less precious. It makes it less desperate. You can walk through your day carrying that, and people will feel it. But one question remains unanswered. If mind is universal, what is this thing you call I? Where does your individuality actually live? Are your quirks, your memories, your specific way of laughing real? Or just ripples on a shared surface? Nobody knows yet. Some thinkers say the local pattern matters. The shape of the whirlpool remains unique. Others suspect that when the receiver eventually switches off, the individual character dissolves back into the whole. Like a song ending inside a larger silence, your unique voice folds back into the universal quiet. And what about free will? If you are one expression of a single field, are your choices even yours? Or is the whole field choosing through you? Ancient philosophers wrestled with this. Modern ones still do. The honest answer is, we don't know. But maybe the question itself is wrongly framed. Maybe freedom looks different when the chooser is not who you thought. Then there is artificial intelligence, the next big test for this idea. Under the old model, if we build a machine complex enough, it should wake up conscious. Just add enough neurons in silicon and stir. But under the antenna model, complexity alone won't do it. The machine would need to tune the field. And nobody knows if math can do that. Maybe AI will be the smartest thing in the room, and still, inside, be nobody home. Or maybe we'll build a receiver good enough to catch it. Testable predictions are coming. Dr. Parnia's team runs new resuscitation studies with hidden targets, images placed on shelves only visible from above. If patients report seeing them during flatline, the antenna model gains hard evidence. Physicists are also probing quantum coherence in warm biological tissue. They're checking whether microtubules really can hold quantum states. The next decade won't settle this, but it will tighten the noose on one side. We may be living through the last century where humans believed the brain makes the mind. And if that flip happens, everything reorganizes at once. Medicine changes, law changes, ethics changes. Our sense of what a person is, what a death is, what a machine is, all rewritten. Even the question of what physics describes at the bottom. Is it particles? Or is it perception all the way down, endlessly? So here's where I leave you tonight. Before you sleep, quietly notice the watcher inside you right now. That quiet presence reading these final words. Don't try to locate it in your head. Just feel it. Ask yourself gently, is this really coming from 3 pounds of tissue? Or is something larger looking through you? You don't have to answer. Just sit with the question. Because it's the beginning of a different life. If this rearranged something in you, subscribe. There's more coming. Mind-bending science, the strange edges of reality. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had an experience you couldn't explain? A knowing you shouldn't have? Next time we go deeper, the physics of the soul. What real equations say about what outlasts the body? It's stranger than you think, and it might be closer to true than anyone ever dared to admit. Until then, stay curious, stay open.